Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am finally playing with the new Metal Lust palette from Tom Ford. So excited to finally get this quad in my hands. As many of you guys know, I recently uploaded a video of the new Tom Ford Badass collection. In that video, I reviewed the Lava Luster palette along with sharing the 3 lippies. Palette that was missing was the Metal Lust palette. They finally got it in stock. This is what she looks like. She does retail for $89 and they were available on the Beautylish website, but not for very long. As soon as I found out that they were available, I went ahead and shared the link in the community center and also on my Instagram. And within like 10-15 minutes, the sucker was gone. So I actually emailed Beautylish and asked them, hey, was this like a fluke? Like, are you guys out really? And she confirmed that they sold every palette they had in 30 minutes. So she's like, well, they're completely sold out, but don't worry, you're gonna be getting your order. People are wanting this palette. This is a new formula from Tom Ford, and I have not always loved Tom Ford quads. It's almost a love-hate. If I love them, I love them. If I don't really like them, I hate them. It's definitely the best description is a love-hate relationship. My personal favorite formula from Tom Ford is the wet dry formula. The wet dry formula always has the TF embossing on the actual shadows, and they're so creamy and so beautiful to apply on the lid. You can wet the brush down and they become the most beautiful creamy eyeshadows. Just such a gorgeous pigment. The other quads that I've had a hit and miss with are the quads that have the matte shades and the shimmer shades in one. So sometimes they'll have like 2 mattes and 2 shimmers, or 3 shimmers, 1 matte, something like that. And they always get hard panned on me, and it absolutely drives me crazy because these quads are $89. They should never be hard panned. What I mean by that is the Naked Pink palette. So this is the Naked Pink palette. This was the holiday 2021 collection. I've only used this palette maybe 3 times, and it's hard panned. It's awful. This is completely garbage to me. Even though this does not even work for my complexion, the shadows are just bad. They've lost their luster. They've lost their pigment. There's nothing there. It is the most ridiculous palette I've ever seen in my life. And what a waste for the holidays. You guys know I was kind of upset about it, so I'm not going to harp on it. You guys know how I feel about it. It totally ticks me off. But let's talk about another palette. So here we have the Visionaire palette. And this is the 26 Visionaire. Same thing goes for this palette. This palette is hard panned. Drives me nuts. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. So I'm actually really happy that Tom Ford has decided to kind of revamp and reformulate the quality of their eyeshadows, because let me tell you something, I really love the Mink Mirage palette, which the Mink Mirage palette is all 4 matte shadows. Those matte shadows are so buttery and so easy to blend. So when I saw this quad, I was thinking, if these matte shadows in this palette are like the Mink Mirage kind of quality and the shimmers are great, it's gonna be a great quad. So that's what we're here to find out, you guys. I have so much to say about this quad, so we're going to go ahead and jump straight into it. I don't know when this palette is going to come back into stock. I'm sure other retailers are going to get it. I don't know when, but anytime I see links for this, of course, I will share it in my community center and also on Instagram. So be on the look for that. But so far, it's sold out so crazy fast. It's bonkers. But without further ado, let's jump into the application, and I'm going to apply these on the eyes, kind of play with the eyeshadows, and we will jump into the swatches, and I will swatch this palette and also compare it to other palettes and other color stories that I find that might be similar. Then we will get into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so the time has finally arrived. I am so excited to play with this new palette from Tom Ford. It comes in a white pouch, and then this is the palette. I'm so excited. Look how beautiful this is. Wowza! So pretty, right? And the shades match my nails. I'm actually getting my nails done tomorrow, so I'm getting spray tan, nails done tomorrow. It's going to be kind of a busy day. The one thing that I will say that I like right off the bat is having 2 mattes, and this shade looks like it's going to have some substance to it. Nothing, in my opinion. Here's the problem. You guys have probably heard me say this a few times, but I'm going to say it in this review. I hate it when Tom Ford, Charlotte Tilbury, anybody that makes quads, I hate it when one of the shades is like a bone color because it's such a waste. If I need a bone color to kind of blend out my eyeshadow, I'll grab it from another palette. But putting them in a palette like this is just an absolute waste, especially when the palette is $89, right? I'm gonna actually start with the shade. I'm gonna blend it out in the crease and see what kind of pigment we can get from it. I'm gonna take a fluffy brush. This is the Wayne Goss number 20. And I'm gonna pick up this shade right here. Now that shade has some substance. It's a light transition, but on my complexion, you can still see it. If you have a darker complexion than I do, that shade may not show up as a transition shade. So that is applying it 4 times. And I feel like I got pretty good pigment. So this shade right here is a shimmer shadow. And then this is like a topper shadow. They're a different formula. They have a different texture. So this is definitely more of like a glitter topper. And then you have the shimmer. So I'm gonna use the applicator that comes in the palettes because these felt tip applicators are great to apply these kinds of shadows. So I'm gonna grab this shade right here. Oh shit, skis, it's making a mess. Ooh, it's a very delicate formula. Hold on, it's getting all over my dress. Making a mess. Okay, don't do that, but you're not gonna be lifting it up to show, but it's kind of chunky. As I'm sticking the applicator down in there, it is a very chunky formula. And so just be careful with it. But look at that. Look at that. Ooh, that is so pretty. I love that color. I'm going to use a brush. Just be careful with that shade because it's super, super chunky. I have it here on the brush and you can see just how much pigment the brush picks up. And it's kind of chunky. So just be super, super careful with it, especially if you already have like your face makeup on. This is probably going to get kind of messy. I'm going to now grab this dark shade here. And I'm going to mix between the 2 mattes. And I'm going to bring it up and kind of into the crease a little bit. So I got a tiny bit of fallout, but not a lot. Like, not as much as I was expecting, to be completely honest with you. I was expecting to get quite a bit. So I'm kind of cleaning up that edge just to kind of see where I need to blend and stuff. But this palette is really easy to blend. Okay, so I went off camera and put this eye makeup on. Now I just gotta make a match. Went ahead and put on concealer. So I'm gonna go into that lighter matte first and kind of use that as the base here and kind of buff that in. I will say these matte shades feel a little bit more powdery than some of the other mattes that I have from Tom Ford. They're beautifully pigmented and they blend beautifully, but they're a little bit powdery. They're kind of like a creamy powder type of texture. Okay, now I'm going to take my flat tip brush and I'm going to go into the dark matte and I'm going to kind of just smoke that into the outer corner. Got way more pigment than you think it's going to. And I need to kind of blend it out with the brush. I'm going to grab this shade right here and I want to see what this shade will look like. Just kind of placed over top. Because that shimmer shade that's on the lid is so shimmery, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference. I'm going to take the Smith 253 brush and I'm just going to place that right here. It's not going to make that much of a difference, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe it did. Maybe it made a difference. Maybe a little bit. But I do think this shade is probably really beautiful on its own as well. Okay, so I'm back. I went ahead and threw on the rest of my makeup. I did put a pair of lashes on just to kind of give me a little bit of oomph to the eye. And I also paired it with two Tom Ford lippies. This is one of the new lipsticks that were launched with this new collection. So this is called I can't read it. It's too small. I can't read it. I need glasses, you guys. So I'll put it down here at the bottom of the screen because I cannot read what the hell it says. It's like all of a sudden I woke up and I can't see. I don't know if anybody had that experience, but I mean, I'm turning 43 this year, and it was literally overnight. I woke up and I was like, wait, I can't see up close. I have to I have to pull it back. And I'm like, okay, I can see that. And this, because it's like a clear sticker on top of like a metal, it ain't gonna happen. I do need to get some good like reading glasses. So anyways, it is the nude color in that new collection. And I also paired it with the Tom Ford lip liner in the shade Extort. Not my favorite, I'm going to be honest with you. This kind of gathers and can get a little bit chalky, so I only used a little teeny bit of it. It's not my favorite, but I really love the other two shades. I thought the other two shades were really beautiful. So that's it for the application. Let's go ahead and jump into the swatches of this palette, and I'm also going to compare it to other palettes that will have similar color stories, and then I will get into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so now that we've made it through the swatches, let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. I want to first say, I really love this quad. I think they nailed it. I think it's a great color story. I think it's extremely easy to use. The only thing I will say is this shade got a tiny bit hard panned from swatching it. See that right there? I'll kind of have to keep my eye on that. And I mean, it's definitely the oils. It's the oils from the fingers that did it. It didn't do it on the dark shade, but it did it on that shade. That was from swatching it. I normally don't use my fingers to apply matte shadows, so I'll probably take a piece of tape over top of it and try to get that layer of the oils from my hands off. But this shade is quite chunky, so just kind of be mindful of that it picks up a lot. Even with your finger, it's like, wow, you got a lot of pigment. This one is just like the other shade in the Lava Luster palette. I feel like this one might get kind of hard panned, so it might be one that you're gonna have to be careful with. But as far as the overall application and the way it looks, it's a gorgeous everyday type of palette. Very easy to use, didn't have any issues blending it out. And I do think these matte shades are better than what was in some of the other palettes that I have. So I think they're getting better, and I think they're making progress in a right direction. I will mention though, I feel like this color story is not anything that we don't already have. I do think that this palette is similar as far as the color story goes to other palettes. For example, the Natasha Denona Glam palette. That is one of my favorite midi size palettes from Natasha Denona, and it's much cheaper, and you get like what, 15 shades versus 4. And this color story is very similar to Natasha Denona's color story. So I feel like as far as just talking about the quad alone, it's a great quad, but I do think it's so similar to other things that we have that you may not need to grab it unless you're just a lover of Tom Ford and you love Tom Ford stuff. I think that's kind of what it's going to boil down to. This color story is not unique in any way, but I do feel like they're taking steps in the right direction to kind of make the quads better and better quality. This is taking steps in the right direction, and I can give them credit where credit is due when it comes to that. Even though this shade is lighter, it does build. If you have a darker complexion than I do, this is definitely going to be a blending shade for you. This shade might get a little bit ashy on you because I noticed that the more I kept building it, it almost turned a little gray. So be mindful of that. Do I feel like this palette is 100% like necessary, like you got to run out and grab it? Absolutely not. It's not unique for what we have out in our collections and what we have from other brands, but I do think it's a step in the right direction for Tom Ford, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. They're making an effort to make these palettes better, and I'm all for it. And I'm excited for what the future holds. I do love Tom Ford quads, but I have a very love-hate relationship with them, like I mentioned in the intro. So it's a good quad. It just is. But I feel like if you have the Natasha Denona Glam palette, you definitely do not need this palette. And I feel like you would probably get more use out of the Natasha Denona Glam palette than you would this and save some money at the same time. So those are my overall thoughts. Sound out down below in the comment section. Let us know, have any of you guys picked up this palette from Tom Ford? How are you feeling about it? Are you loving it? Are you not? I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. So definitely share with us in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.